It is 1 a.m. in Washington, 6 in The Hague, and 2 on a Monday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Moon Gan-young. Here are the top stories making headlines at this hour. President Park Geun-hye holds a one-on-one with Chinese President Xi Jinping in The Hague. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment on North Korea denuclearization and non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Just ahead of a U.S.-arranged summit between Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo, one of Japanese Prime Minister's closest aides say a 1993 apology to victims of sexual slavery could be revised any time. And Korea launches its first ever trading platform for gold in efforts to bring the underground economy into the open and squeeze taxes out of the opaque market. We'll have those stories and more, but first let us begin in The Hague. No nuclear weapons for North Korea. That was the reaffirmation made by the leaders of South Korea and China on Sunday as they met in The Hague ahead of this week's Nuclear Security Summit. Our presidential office correspondent Choi Yoo-sun is traveling with the president, and she filed us this report from The Hague.
President Park Geun-hye discussed better cooperation on curbing North Korea's nuclear program with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Sunday. The two leaders met for the fourth time ahead of this year's Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague. President Park stressed Pyongyang cannot achieve economic development while continuing with its nuclear weapons program. To that end, President Xi said China opposes North Korea as a nuclear weapons state and that Beijing is, in its own way, persuading its ally to fulfill its previous international denuclearization pledges. This comes after President Park urged North Korea's traditional allies, China and Russia, in an interview with a Dutch broadcaster to push Pyongyang harder to give up its nuclear arms. The Chinese leader then endorsed President Park's trust-building initiatives on the Korean peninsula and policies for a peaceful reunification. President Park said a unified Korean peninsula would be nuclear-free, symbolic of peace, generating a new growth engine in Northeast Asia. On the trade front, the Korean president said the two sides should try to finalize negotiations for a Korea-China FTA within a year, to which her Chinese counterpart agreed. On Monday, President Park will seek ways to boost bilateral ties with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. She will then give an opening speech at the Nuclear Security Summit. Choi Yoo-sun, ARIRANG News, The Hague.
Now, ahead of a trilateral summit among Korea, the U.S. and Japan scheduled for Tuesday, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said it's important to face history and pass it on to the next generation. But as our foreign affairs correspondent Hwang Sang-hee reports, the sincerity of Abe and his administration is once again in question after a high-level Japanese official called for a new statement on the comfort women issue.
Visiting the Anne Frank House Museum in Amsterdam on Sunday, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe stressed the importance of preserving history for the next generation.
We would like to face the historical facts in a humble manner, but also we like to pass on the lessons and the facts of history to the next generation. By doing so, I would like to realize peace in the entire international community.
The Anne Frank House is where the German-born Jewish girl kept a diary of her life in hiding before she died in a Nazi concentration camp. The Japanese government said Abe's visit to one of the best-known memorials to the victims of the Holocaust showed his willingness to acknowledge historical facts. The visit is being seen as a diplomatic move ahead of Abe's trilateral summit with President Park Geun-hye and U.S. President Barack Obama on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague. Abe's first official meeting with the South Korean leader comes after he vowed to uphold Japan's landmark apology issued to the victims of its wartime sexual enslavement during the Second World War. But a comment made by one of Abe's close aides is once again raising eyebrows about Japan's sincerity. Koichi Hagiuda said Sunday that Tokyo should consider issuing a new political statement on the so-called comfort women issue if fresh findings emerge while the government verifies how the existing apology was compiled. He stressed the Japanese leader did not deny the possibility of issuing a new statement. Hagiuda's comments should not be taken lightly, as he had foreseen Abe's visit to the controversial Yasukuni Shrine last year. South Korea's foreign ministry noted it was inappropriate for a high-level Japanese official to deny the recent pledges made by Abe and urged Tokyo to reaffirm its stance. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
Meanwhile, a wartime letter that proves the Japanese military forced Korean women into sexual slavery during World War II has been made public. China's Jilin Provincial Archives revealed the letter and 24 other documents through the Korean media on Monday. Now, the letter, written by a Japanese citizen named Nakata, who lived in China in 1941, said some 20 Korean women were forced to serve at a comfort station in the Japanese army compound stationed in China under the National Mobilization Law. Now, a separate Japanese document described 36 Korean women at a military brothel in Nanjing during the war as, quote, special comfort women, which indicates that they were coerced into sexual servitude. The United States is increasingly becoming the next battlefield for the political and historical war of words between Korea and Japan, according to the New York Times at least. In an editorial published over the weekend, the paper says Seoul and Tokyo share one common goal: coaxing Washington into pressuring the other country to make concessions on issues ranging from Japan's wartime use of sex slaves to the dual naming of the East Sea and Sea of Japan. Now, he goes on to say that the U.S. government can claim some success getting the leaders of Korea and Japan to agree to hold a trilateral summit talks this week on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague. Experts widely expect the campaigning from both countries to intensify ahead of President Barack Obama's visit to Seoul and Tokyo next month. While North Korea was busy in recent weeks firing off short-range missiles into the East Sea, South Korean and U.S. Marines were conducting their first ever large-scale command post exercise near Pohang in the southeast of the Korean peninsula. 500 Korean and 1,500 American troops took part in the drills, which started on March 15th and ran through Sunday. Now, the simulation exercise, part of annual joint military drills, was aimed at improving the mobility of troops and equipment in the event of an emergency infiltration. During the 9 days of exercises, North Korea test-fired 71 short-range missiles off its east coast.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Moon Gon-yong live from Seoul.
Overhauling shopping market for the dual use of the Korean name East Sea and the Japanese name Sea of Japan in school textbooks in the state of Virginia. The Korean government has decided to overhaul regulations in 5 promising service sectors, as well as regulations that are controlled by more than one ministry, as part of its efforts to boost corporate investment and create more jobs. More on this, here's our Kim In-ji.
This is Yeosu Industrial Complex, the driving force of Korea's petrochemical industry. Completed in 1979, the complex has continuously undergone expansion, but the factory site is still far from enough. The government planned to remove a ban on development of a greenbelt area inside the complex last year, but this was put off as it would have required the payment of over $55 million in development charges. This is a result of a regulation that is under the control of more than one government ministry. When it comes to industrial location, the Land Ministry, Trade Ministry, and Environment Ministry all have a role, such as operations or environment management. In response to this issue, the government has decided to overhaul such regulations, which experts point out hamper new business projects that could revitalize the economy.
As for issues that require cooperation between a number of ministries, we will allocate their roles and set a deadline.
The government will also revamp regulations related to labor and environment, as well as regulations on 5 promising service sectors, such as health, education, and tourism, in order to spur corporate investment and create more jobs. An official from the Ministry of Strategy and Finance said they have set their first task to ease regulations in such sectors and get rid of regulations controlled by more than one ministry. Financial authorities are also taking follow-up measures to ease regulations. It will review the adoption of Britain's control system that automatically eliminates existing regulations when new ones are introduced to ensure there's no extra cost to the public and businesses. As of last year, some 11,000 out of over 15,000 registered regulations were related to the economy. The government has pledged to cut the volume of registered regulations to 80% of the current level by 2016. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Now, in the wake of massive data leaks in recent months, insurance companies here in Korea are coming up with ways to better compensate customers who have had their personal information compromised. Starting this week, it will be easier for some affected individuals to receive damages for losses. Our Kwon So-ah has the details.
Victims of financial fraud caused by hacking or phishing scams will be better compensated in the near future. 5 major insurance companies announced this Monday that they will introduce reforms to compensation measures so that their customers can receive compensation for damages more easily and more quickly. Hyundai Marine and Fire Insurance, Samsung Fire and Marine Insurance, and Dongbu Insurance will be some of the first to come out with the new insurance products this week. After assessing the move, smaller firms are expected to join in as well. Up until now, individuals have only been eligible to receive compensation when financial firms were found to be responsible for fraud or a leak. The change means they will be able to receive damages for losses even when it's not clear who is behind the breach of privacy. It comes as concerns are growing about personal data protection. Millions of Koreans have been affected by data leaks in recent months. Customers of KB Kookmin Card, NH Nongyap Card, and Lotte Card had personal information leaked, as did those who do business with Standard Chartered Bank Korea and Citibank Korea. As such, financial authorities plan to make those companies subscribe to the new insurance before others. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
Gold. It's the oldest form of currency in the world, but black market transactions of the precious metal are thought to deprive the Korean government of an estimated $278 million in taxes each year. Well, as part of efforts to bring the underground economy to the surface, Korea has opened its first ever gold exchange market. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Korea's first ever gold exchange market opened its trading doors to the public this Monday morning. It offers a place for dealers and private investors to make gold transactions, and is part of the government's efforts to prevent tax evasion and the illegal trade of the precious metal. Individuals in Korea own an estimated 700 tons of gold, 7 times the amount held by the Bank of Korea. Nearly 70 tons is thought to be traded each year without being taxed. 1-gram units of gold bullion of 99.99 purity are bought and sold in the exchange market. 8 securities firms and 49 futures trading companies have registered and participated in the trading on Monday. The prices of gold traded in the exchange will be adjusted in real time. Gold opened trading on Monday morning with 1 gram being worth 47,000 Korean won, roughly $43.45. Investors can withdraw gold from the exchange in units of kilograms. The Korea Exchange says transaction fees will be waived until March of next year to help the exchange platform take root.
It is expected to offer a stable and efficient trading environment for dealers and potential investors and boost the liquidity of gold within the next 2 years.
The market will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays. Gold can be withdrawn from 4 other Korea Exchange offices outside the capital city of Seoul. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
Well, that was gold, but more and more retail investors are now turning to their mobile smart devices to buy and sell stocks. The Korea Exchange said Monday that mobile stock transactions made up some 9.5% of all transactions on the nation's main bourse this year. That is in sharp contrast with the less than 1.5% tallied 5 years ago. The number of individuals trading stocks online is on the slide, accounting for about 28% of the total trading this year, down from nearly 50% tallied in 2009. And the latest coming in from search for the missing Malaysia Airlines plane. New data from a French satellite shows potential debris from Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 in the southern Indian Ocean. France's foreign ministry released a statement saying radar echoes had picked up several objects about 2,300 kilometers from Perth. Now, it is the third possible sighting in the area of Western Australia that has become the focus of this search effort. Flight MH370 disappeared on March 8th while en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing with 239 people on board. Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics has found itself nestled at the top of tablet PC valuations by a U.S.-based consumer magazine, beating out its U.S. rival Apple. Consumer Reports said Monday that Samsung's new tablet PC models, the Galaxy Tab Pro 10.1 and Galaxy Tab Pro 8.4, got the best ratings. The scores are based on a device's various features like portability and resolution. The Galaxy Tab Pro 10.1 received a combined score of 90, the first time the U.S. magazine has dished out an evaluation in the 90 range. Apple's iPad Air, that falls in the same category with Galaxy Tab Pro 10.1, ranked fourth with 85. Now, on a different note, the Korean wave is alive and kicking in China. A K-pop concert co-hosted by ARIRANG TV in Shanghai over the weekend featured some of the industry's hottest acts and drew thousands of fans from all over that big nation. And as our UDN reports, the concert is just the first of many more to come.
K-pop fans in China filled this 18,000-seat stadium on Saturday for the Simply K-pop Tour 2014 in Shanghai. The concert was organized by ARIRANG TV, Korea's only global television network, and Chinese satellite broadcaster Dragon TV, which reaches 1 billion viewers in China.
I prepared flowers for G-Dragon to cheer him up for the concert. I've been his fan for 6 years, and I hope he will visit China more often.
Some die-hard fans didn't even give a second thought to traveling by car over 10 hours to the venue.
I drove all the way from Shandong. I've been waiting for 2 months for this concert.
I'm a big fan of crayon pop, so I decided to wear this helmet to the concert.
This is just a small glimpse into the K-pop craze that's been rapidly expanding in China in recent years, and fans didn't miss out on the chance to see their favorite acts in person. A total of 12 artists, including Big Bang's G-Dragon and Taeyang, are all here at the Mercedes-Benz Arena for the spectacular 3-hour concert. And this concert is the first of many more to come. Along with ARIRANG TV and Dragon TV, the concert was hosted by entertainment management agencies Intercrew based in Korea and JY Entertainment in China. The four groups signed a memorandum of understanding ahead of the concert, agreeing to promote more cultural exchanges between China and Korea. That includes more concerts and even television programs.
I'm excited to work with Korea's ARIRANG TV, and I hope to deepen our relationship through more projects together in the future.
The concert will be broadcast on ARIRANG TV to over 100 million households around the world on April 11th and 18th. Yurian, ARIRANG News, Shanghai.
Now it's time for our daily arts and culture segment with our Im Yoon-hee, and of course she joins me live in the studio. Good afternoon to you, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon.
You know, the weekend was, the weather was just beautiful over the weekend, and I'm assuming that there were, a lot of perfect festivals that took place over the weekend.
Exactly. So this past weekend, a festival took place in Insadong here in Seoul. Now the festival is called ARIRANG Festival, and it's named after the Korean folk music that's called ARIRANG and is often considered an unofficial anthem of Korea. And so this festival takes place in Insadong, and Insadong is a cultural hotspot for Korean traditions. So let's take a look at a festival that celebrates Korean tradition while ushering a brand new spring.
A shining symbol of tradition in Korea. The car-free, pedestrian-filled spring streets of Insadong ushers in the ARIRANG Festival. The festival kicks off with a street parade. led by a group playing the techita. Drawing heads and following around the guards were those in royal hanboks from the Joseon dynasty. But the real stars of the show were the children techita musicians.
Insadong is where the independence movement on March 1st started and where Korea's Declaration of Independence was read. We held the ARIRANG festival because ARIRANG is what goes in line with Insadong's tradition. Also, if you look at the direction that Hallyu is going, one could say that it all started in Insadong.
The 2014 Insadong ARIRANG Festival was held outside and had several venues that took part in the open-air environment. Another popular performance was the hanbok fashion show, featuring local residents as the models. To add to the excitement of the festival, special magician guest Lee Jun-hyung showcased a creative performance for the festival guests. The Taepyeongmu dance also delighted the crowd with its quick steps, showing off the traditional Korean art. And finally, the long-awaited ARIRANG performances. An opening by a Korean traditional ensemble helped to spark the curiosity of the crowd. Following that was Mirang ARIRANG, which is a performance that represents the Gyeongsang-do provinces. A performance by Gugak star Song So-hee and a children's choir filled the streets of Insadong with the song ARIRANG.
It's a nice mix of the traditional and the modern life here.
Why do I like it? I love the Korean people. I love the culture, and it's very beautiful.
Like Insadong, there are some 20 cities all over Korea that hold festivals themed around ARIRANG. And the traditional folk song's popularity only grew after it was inscribed on UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritages.
You know, Yoonhee, we know that there are so many variations of ARIRANG, but, you know, I think everyone agrees that ARIRANG really represents Korea and Korea's traditional history and, of course, our own very TV station right here, ARIRANG TV. And I know for a fact that Insadong was remodeled lately, right?
Yes, recently. So this festival celebrates the reopening of Insadong, which was recently remodeled. The upper part of Insadong was remodeled, and this festival celebrated that, and now it's 2 times as large. So plenty of more room for new museums and more events such as this festival.
Definitely. One that merges Korea's traditions and Korea's modern culture. Now, I know that there was another ARIRANG festival that took place.
Yes, so this past weekend another festival took place in New York, also called an ARIRANG Festival, celebrating similar ideas of Korea's traditions and cultures. Now that took place over in New York in Times Square, and it kind of moved around and also went to Washington Park Square. But that was set up to promote ARIRANG's inclusion into UNESCO's Cultural Heritage of Humanity program. And so ARIRANG is now recognized by UNESCO, which is very exciting for that. And so UN Secretary General Pan Ki also Pan Ki-moon, yes, also gave a keynote there as well.
Well, definitely we'll be sure to keep an eye on out for more ARIRANG related news and how ARIRANG is promoted as Korea's own tradition all across the globe. All right, thank you, Yoonhee, for that.
My pleasure.
Good afternoon. The spring-like weather conditions here are continuing in the nation with temperatures reaching up to 22 degrees in some regions. Right now we have light fog in the central and the fine dust level is a little high, but that is expected to clear up later this afternoon. Now for more details, let's shift over to our satellite map. It's partly cloudy over the nation and we can expect on and off drizzles later in the afternoon in Gyeongsang-buk-do province and in the central region. And on Wednesday, we are expecting some rain down south. Now going over to temperature readings, Seoul tops out at 17 degrees this afternoon. Southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will both peak at 18 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island hits over 18 degrees, Dokdo peaks at 6, while Mount Kumgang tops out at 8. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you, Kanyang.
All right, Michelle, thank you for that. And that's all from me at this hour. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with Business Today at 4 p.m. Korea time. See you then.